number one tip for healing functional neurological disorder, otherwise known as FND or conversion disorder. And a big symptom is non-epileptic seizures. And I talk about this in chapter 3 of volume 1 FND recovery guide. I'm also the author of volume 2, which, as you can see by my author copy, is even thicker. And we have this new thing out for tracking symptoms in an easy way. You'll just use tick marks for each symptom that occurs every day, so you know how many times it's coming in your day, and then you'll answer prompts, and then there's a free journaling page as well. And I am a survivor of severe FND. I was so disabled that in my 30s, I had to move back in with my parents, and they had to wait on me hand and foot. I had to quit my job teaching. I had been almost finished when I got diagnosed with a master's degree in education, and I just became an invalid, falling all the time, couldn't speak. Sometimes I'd be bedbound, sometimes I'd be mute. Seizures, constant seizures, tremors. It was absolutely and totally horrible. So when I say that I healed about 95%, that is a miracle. It's a miracle that I am walking and talking. So first I healed enough to go back to school and finish that master's degree in education. And then people started wanting to know how I did it. And that's why I ended up starting on this journey, writing books, to share my FND recovery guide. What I did is I looked up the science behind why what I did for myself worked for myself. And what I discovered is not that surprising, but astonishing. Sitting in all the scientific research was all this evidence that backed up what I intuitively knew. And I have to give all the credit to God and to my family and my doctor for helping me figure stuff out. So, all that to say, I've walked this road the hard way. And I have a series of tips that I'm going to record for how to heal FND. Now, this is my number one tip. My number one tip, and I think I already said it's in chapter 3 of volume 1 here, FND Recovery Guide. These are on Amazon, by the way. All my books are on Amazon. And I'll try to also include a link down below to my website where you can get links to a couple of these things. So anyway, here's my number one tip. It is the 20-minute hack. And I cannot even tell you how much this helped. I mean, this is probably responsible for 50% of my, I don't know how much of my healing, but like a lot of my healing is due to this 20-minute hack. And not in isolation, but it's definitely a big thing. So how best to explain it to you? You can think of your brain as having pathways, because it does. And this may not be a perfect explanation, but it makes it easy to understand. So imagine that inside of your brain are pathways, just like trails in the woods. And you know what happens in the woods is that over time, even if somebody has built a city, if they let it go and stop using it, that city gets taken over by greenery. And so if you had even the widest pathway in the woods and you stopped using it, that pathway would get overgrown and it would cease to exist. But if you had a tiny little bunny trail and you stopped using it, that pathway would get overgrown and stop existing a lot faster than that big, wide trail made by a herd of elephants that travel the same way every single day for like 10 years. And the same kind of thing happens in your brain, where the more your brain uses a certain pathway, the more well-worn it is and the harder it is to get rid of. Now, FND is caused by your brain building a pathway that shouldn't be there. In a lot of cases, I think there may be more than one pathway, but I'm saying that in a lot of cases, that pathway is between the emotional center and the movement center. That's how it was in my case. My brain had built a pathway that shouldn't be there. So when I got overwhelmed with emotions, and there's another chunk of this too that I have to explain, my body would act out in like tremors, right hand tremors, falling down, seizures, all this movement related stuff, even trouble speaking. And Another chunk that you have to understand is that part of having FND for a lot of people is that your amygdala becomes overactive. Now, your amygdala is that almond-shaped organ that sends out the information to your body that basically it sends out the chemical messengers or the hormones or whatever you want to call them, like cortisol, adrenaline, to tell your body that we are in fight or flight, we are in survival mode. The problem is that once the amygdala receives a message from your brain that we need there's danger here, fight or flight, it sends out these messengers to your muscles and to parts of your body. And once that signal is received, you can't really stop it. And when you have FND, the amygdala very often, if not always, becomes overactive. And what this means, if we can go back to a different version of our woods analogy, is that it would be like you're walking through the woods and you're looking around, and a normal person that's doing this, a bear jumps out at them or a tiger, and they automatically, without having to think about it too much, their body goes into fight or flight. And they either run or they freeze. There's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are the main four survival responses that we have as humans. So as soon as your brain senses danger, you're from that tiger or that bear, a healthy normal person goes into survival mode and chooses the most appropriate response that's going to get them out of there alive. Well, because when you have FND, your amygdala is overactive, there's a good chance if you were walking through the woods, a bunny rabbit could jump out at you, and you would have that same reaction to the bunny rabbit as a normal, healthy person would have to the bear. So when I say your amygdala is overactive, it means that you're going into your survival response, fight, flight, fawn, and freeze, more often than you really should and way stronger than you should. And this overactive survival mode response brings on these symptoms. So you have to understand those two parts to understand the 20-minute hack. And you have to understand the nature trails in the woods, that what you don't use, you lose. FND is caused by a pathway that was built that shouldn't be there. So theoretically, the cure for FND is to erase this pathway that shouldn't be there, if you could do such a thing. And you have to understand that you don't really have direct control of this amygdala. Once it receives a signal and it's overactive, you're done for. Okay, here's the next part that you have to understand. Right here behind your forehead is your prefrontal cortex, and it is responsible for rational thought and decision making. And you can picture your brain like this. This part here is your prefrontal cortex right behind your forehead. Okay, this is very important to this tip that I'm about to share with you. When your amygdala goes, we're in danger, and it sends out all of these messengers to your body, your prefrontal cortex, it's like it just flies up and it's no longer accessible to you, like barely accessible at all. And you now are left with what some people would call the lizard brain. It's the part of your brain that runs on instincts and habits. And so the problem is that when your brain, for 20 minutes after you're triggered, your amygdala is triggered, for 20 minutes, your brain is going to be running on habit, because that's how long it takes for your brain to relax and you get access back to your prefrontal cortex. And I learned this in marriage counseling. My husband has severe PTSD. And of course, I have functional neurological disorder, and those are both stress-related diseases. So once one of us is triggered into a survival mode, you're not really thinking properly. And the counselor said that it takes at least 20 minutes basically to come out of survival mode, is what he was meaning. So when you get triggered, your amygdala is overactive, it gets triggered, your prefrontal cortex all of a sudden isn't accessible. You're running on habit. And what happens when you're running on habit? Those pathways that are already in your brain, especially you're going to have at least one. If you have FND, you probably have at least one, maybe more pathways that shouldn't be there that lead straight to symptoms. So, for example, for me, I would fall down a lot. That was a huge symptom that I would have. So that brain pathway that shouldn't be there, that's telling my body you're in danger, fall down and freeze, that activates, which means, back to those nature trails in the woods analogy, that trail is getting constantly reinforced. That trail that says Alyssa should fall down whenever she's triggered and freeze. That trail is constantly being reinforced. And to add insult to injury, I can't help it because now that I've been triggered, I don't have access to my full brain for 20 minutes. Okay. That sounds like a nightmare, right? That's where this simple trick is so genius and it helps so much. You can't really stop your body from functioning on habit. So what you can do though is stop your whole body. So as soon as you're triggered into survival mode, and you might know it when you see the first FND symptoms show up, or you may learn to memorize the feeling of how it feels when you're triggered. And I definitely suggest start to pay attention to that because you may recognize it. I started to learn to recognize the feeling. As soon as you know you've been triggered, you sit down or you lay down for 20 minutes because the symptoms are more likely to keep occurring if you keep trying to push yourself through your workday and you keep trying to walk if your symptom is falling down, or if your symptom is speech related, if you keep trying to speak, your symptom is more likely to keep occurring. So if you can sit down or lay down quietly for 20 minutes, wait until your body switches from this survival mode back to its regular mode. And you'll probably know when you have switched back over to have access to your full brain, your brain's come back down, around 20 minutes, or when your body naturally, without you thinking about it, goes like a natural sigh. That's a pretty good indication that you've probably switched back to where you can actually be in control of your actions. And there's so much that I can say here. I think the video is already getting kind of long, so maybe tune back in for the rest of the series. And I'm probably going to go ahead and post this video as a reoccurring post in our Facebook group so that people who regularly join that haven't heard this will have a place to start and learn about the 20-minute method. It changed my life. And as you're implementing it, probably at first you'll grieve that you can't do as much as you used to, and that's normal and that's okay. Implementing this really consistently over a period of years is what took me from 0% to 95% healed. And that process from 0 to 95 probably took about 2 years. Now, I'm not 100% cured yet. And frankly, now that I've got most of my functionality back, I push myself so hard that it might take me a while to conquer that last 5% because that's really just not my total focus now. But I used to be so bad off that I had to focus and prioritize this healing. But even if I never make that last 5%, which I'm aiming for, I think there's a theoretical cure for FND, even though I can't prove it with anything other than logic because I haven't walked that last 5% yet. Even if I never make that last percentage, my quality of life is so much higher now. I have my life back. I've been able to start working again. I was able to move out of my parents' house and live independently with my husband again. I can drive again. There's just all of these things that I can do. I can exercise again. I still haven't lost all the weight that I gained with FND, but that's coming. There's so much that I can do now that I couldn't do before. And I just want to pass on an improved quality of life to you. So if anything that I can share with you can help you, then please stick around. I want to be able to help you achieve what I did. That's going to be it for today. Go ahead and tune in over on YouTube. It's at Real Alyssa Black if you want to stay up with all of my videos. We have a Facebook group. I have several Facebook groups, but the one that I mentioned earlier is called Functional Neurological Disorder F&D Recovery Community, and it is the private version. We have a private version and a public version. People like the private version because it means that your posts that you put in there aren't going to be put up for all your friends and family to see on your regular feed. Whereas the public version, you can post shareable content in there, and that might be able to be visible to other people. And I have volume 2 of F&D Recovery Guide and volume 1 of F&D Recovery Guide and the several colors, different colors of this 30-day symptom mastery journal on Amazon. And I will be coming out with a specific F&D version of this, so it'll be even easier to track your symptoms. And I hope that something that I have produced will help you guys. Check the link in the description for my website where you can get links to different things if you don't want to have to type in to Google, and I hope this helps you.